All right, thank you everyone for joining us today. This is a presentation on how to Zoom. We're going to go over protocols, best practices, and some troubleshooting. This is part of the Southern Vermont Economy Project, which is a program within the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation. For the month of April, I am putting on a webinar or a presentation every week on Wednesdays. So today, as well as the next 3 Wednesdays, and I will jump into that later on as far as the topics go towards the end of the presentation. Here is the agenda. Hopefully this will only take about 30 to 40 minutes to go through. And again, this is being recorded, so people can watch it at a later date. So I put together this instructional video on how to operate Zoom as a meeting attendee. And I may need to, here we go.
Hi, welcome to this Zoom meeting. Here are some instructions on how to operate as a meeting attendee in Zoom. Your host has the ability to mute and unmute you. Most likely, you've been muted when you entered the meeting room. Here's where you can mute and unmute yourself. If you slide your cursor to the bottom left hand, you'll see the microphone. When there's a slash over it, that means you're muted. Click it again to unmute yourself. You may also notice that you have a video option. Here's where you can turn that on and off. Again, down next to the mute button, the little video camera. Go ahead and click it. When there's a line through it, that means your video is off. Click it again to stop to turn the video back on. If you don't have a photo associated with your Zoom account, it will just say your name in the absence of your video feed. To see who else is in the meeting, you can click on the participant list down the bottom. This is also where you can rename yourself. If you hover over your name under More, click Rename. In larger meetings, in order to keep the chatter and confusion down, it's easiest to use the chat function. Here you can type messages to the whole group or privately to specific people. Move your cursor down to the bottom, the little chat bubble. So I can either send a message to the whole group, or if I just want to message the host or any other participant privately, can do that as well. Additionally, another function that helps keep people from talking over each other is the raise hand function. This notifies the host that you have something to share. The host will call on you when it is your turn to share. That raise hand is at the bottom of the participant list. You go ahead and click raise hand and you can see how a hand comes up next to my name, and then click it to lower my hand. Thanks for listening and enjoy your virtual meeting.
So I put that together because for a bunch of the meetings that we've been doing, I've, in starting the meeting, had to sort of go over all those options for people who maybe have not used Zoom before. So I just created that video, and that video is available for anyone to use at the beginning of their meetings if they, don't want to have to go through those steps and sort of showing people how to use Zoom. So I'll just quickly go through getting started with Zoom, assuming you've probably already done this step if you're on this, this webinar. But for those who have not created a Zoom account yet, you can create an account at this web address. And once you're signed on to the web, you can use the panel on the left-hand side. I'll show you an image of that. To navigate your web portal. You can update your profile, schedule a meeting, edit meetings, and so on. So here's sort of what the Zoom homepage looks like. Here you can either sign up, the sign up button in the upper right-hand corner, or sign in. You'll also want to download the desktop application. It's important to have this because there are only certain things that you can do in the desktop application that you cannot do with the online portal. And so in order to do that, Again, you've probably already been prompted to do this if you have been using Zoom, but if not, here you can click on this link or type that into your browser. This will automatically download the app. You'll want to click the download, which will automatically install Zoom. And then I suggest creating a shortcut on your desktop for easy access. So again, this is what the download screen looks like. You'll see down here in the bottom left-hand corner, if you just click that, it will install and then open immediately. Here's what that desktop app looks like. You see the four sort of main features, either starting a new instant meeting, or you can also access your personal meeting ID from the upper left-hand square. And think of these meeting IDs as room numbers. So your personal ID will stay the same with your account. And so if you are holding meetings in that room, whoever has that meeting ID can access that meeting room. You can also have Zoom generate random meeting IDs, and that's for, if you want new meeting rooms, essentially, that people will need the link or the meeting ID to get into. You can also join meeting, schedule, and share your screen from this desktop application. Also be sure to check your audio and video settings. In your desktop app, in the upper right-hand corner, that's where you'll find the settings. And then you'll click on the left-hand side, the video tab. In the red circle, that's where you can change which camera you're using. Most of us will probably just have one camera, so there'll only be one option. And there's also some additional features like touch up my appearance if you want to look, 5 to 10 years younger, or turning off my video when joining the meeting. Additionally, you want to look into your audio at the top in the red circle. That's where you choose your speaker, and then also choosing your mic. And you can see the red arrow is pointing at your input level. So you can test your mic by speaking and seeing if that bar is moving with the volume of your voice. There are also additional settings in audio. You can have your microphone muted when you're joining a meeting. You can also have the option to press and hold the space key to temporarily unmute yourself, which is pretty useful. Let's talk a little bit about attending meetings. So starting a meeting either from the Zoom online web portal or the desktop app. So from the online web portal, you can choose to join a meeting or host a meeting in the upper right-hand corner. When you choose either of those, it's going to pop you over to your Zoom desktop app. So this will pop up. Again, if you want to do it just directly from the desktop app, those are the two options there that the red arrows are pointing to. When you're joining a meeting, it'll ask you what audio it wants you're going to use. So you can either choose your computer audio or you can choose to use your phone audio by calling in. If you want to just always be using your computer audio, select this box at the bottom of that screen, and it'll just automatically join audio by computer when you're joining meetings. So this is what the meeting screen looks like. If you're in the meeting, your camera is off and no one else is in the meeting. Again, in order to turn your video on and off, in the bottom left-hand corner, which you saw in that short video I shared at the beginning of this presentation. Also, you'll probably want to invite some people to your meeting. So you can do that a couple different ways, with your contacts, through email, copying the URL, or copying the invitation. Generally speaking, I use the last two, either copying the URL or copying the invitation. And that's what that looks like. So if you copy the URL, this is what generically the URL will look like. So anyone who wants to join the meeting either needs this URL or the meeting ID, which is just the 10 numbers at the end of the URL. If you copy the invitation, there's a lot more information in that. And if you're going to have people in your meeting that are only going to be using their phone, this is a good option because it shares the phone numbers that they can use to call in. Again, there is the link, there's the meeting ID, and then the phone numbers to call in. So joining meetings either from your Zoom account or as a guest. So again, you'll need either the URL or the meeting ID. So in order to do that, you go to your desktop app, click join. This button will pop up, or the screen will pop up. And in that box that the red arrow is pointing at, you can either enter the link or the meeting ID. Let's talk a little bit about sharing your screen during a meeting. So when you're in a meeting, at the bottom of the screen, there's a green square with a little arrow, and that's your share screen. When you click that, this box will pop up and asking you what you want to share. So there's a couple different options. You can share your entire screen. You'll notice I have screen 1 and screen 2 because I have 2 monitors. So if you choose to share your whole screen, or if you only have one screen, it'll say desktop. If you choose that option, anything that happens within that screen, participants can see. So if you're switching between Excel, PowerPoint, the internet, all participants will be able to see all those applications. You can also choose to show just specific applications. So like I said, just the internet browser or the PowerPoint. That way, if you are going to be switching in between applications while sharing your screen, participants will only be able to see that one application that you choose. Also, if you're going to be sharing any videos with sound or sound clips, be sure to click the Share Computer Sound at the bottom left-hand corner, just like I had to do when I shared the video at the beginning of this meeting. There are also some special features that you can use. You can share a whiteboard. This allows the host and participants to draw on the whiteboard. And then you can also share your iPhone or iPad, either by airdropping if you have a Mac, or by a USB cable. And so participants will be able to see the screen of that if you choose that option. Also, as a host, there are some advanced sharing options. You can choose how many participants can share at the same time. You can also choose who can share. So as the host, you can choose that only the host shares their screen. So that way, participants will not be able to share their screen. And that just keeps things nice and tidy if you're not going to be having participants sharing their screen. And then recording meetings is another great feature. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, you can see the record option, which is next to the chat bubble. And then you have 2 places that it could be recorded to your computer or to the cloud. If you have it recording to your computer, once the meeting is ended, the recording will be downloaded to your computer. If you choose to record to the cloud, after the meeting is done, it'll be uploaded to your Zoom online account or the web portal. And just something to note there is there's very limited free space on that cloud. So if you do choose this option, you should regularly download the meeting and then delete it from your Zoom online account to free up the space. And that's what that looks like on your Zoom online portal. If you click in the left-hand side, My Recordings, you'll see the recording from the meetings that you recorded. So that's a little bit about how to use Zoom as a host as well as an attendee. I wanted to just go over some best practices that I've sort of learned along the way, especially in the past couple of weeks. We've been using Zoom on a very regular basis. And these are just some things that I've learned that aren't necessarily spelled out on specific platform websites or something like that. So as far as having meetings with only 2 people in it, so one-on-one meetings, really you only need the basic account, which is free. With only 2 people in a meeting, you have unlimited time to host that meeting. If you're going to be having 3 or more people in a meeting, the basic account only allows you to have a 40-minute meeting. it is the paid accounts, so Pro and up, that allow you to have unlimited meeting times. So just keep that in mind. Basic is free, Pro and up they do cost money. And then with meetings that have a large number of people, I really suggest having 2 to 3 people running that meeting. So you have the presenter, that's the person sharing their screen or the PowerPoint, providing content, having a moderator, they're the person who controls the meeting room, they can mute and unmute people, they can call on participants, and then optional, you can have a note taker. In some of the meetings we've been having 50 to 100 people in the meeting, and it's been really useful to have a note taker that is not only taking notes on comments and the content, but also questions the participants are asking. Typically, we have the participants ask questions in the chat function, so it's easy to copy and paste into a document that you're taking the notes in. And something to note on that is when you're recording the meeting, it also saves the chat. So when you're recording a meeting, you don't necessarily have to be copying and pasting everything that's happening in the chat. Once it's downloaded, you will have that chat downloaded as well. And then something just to consider as far as holding committee or board meetings using Zoom. I suggest making sure all participants can access the Zoom platform. Feel free to share this recording of this webinar to help them with instructions on how to set that up and utilize Zoom. But also remember that there's a call-in option. So if somebody doesn't have internet or has poor internet connectivity, they can call into the meeting. The only downside to this is they can't see the screen. So if you're sharing your screen or a presentation, they won't be able to actually see that. I suggest circulating materials in advance and having a shared repository. So having a shared Google Drive or a Dropbox where all the material for meetings are held. So that's easily accessible by people who are participating in that meeting. And then lastly, recording the meeting. This is specific to maybe some of the open meeting laws that we have in the state of Vermont. I'm not totally clear on what's required in this time of virtual meetings. However, one way I think that you can meet those requirements is by recording the meeting as well as sharing that recording in a public space. So probably like the town website or something like that. And then we should also talk briefly about dealing with problems during a meeting. There's nothing like getting a meeting started and then having everything go wrong and the meeting not be able to either get off the ground or finish. So some problems that I've seen are, for instance, a presenter maybe is not able to share their screen for whatever reason. So my fix to that is just to make sure the moderator or the host has a copy of the presentation so that if the presenter is not able to share their screen, the moderator can share their presentation for them. Sometimes you'll have people in a meeting that are being disruptive. Ideally, that won't happen, but if so, as a host, there are options to individually mute, put in a waiting room, or remove the participant from the meeting. So just familiarizing yourself with those options in case that comes up. And then lastly, if the moderator or host is having issues with their connection. For this problem, I suggest setting up a co-host. I don't go into that into this presentation, but I do suggest if that's something that you're interested in, to reach out to me and I can show you how to set up a co-host in the meeting. I just wanted to cover some material and resources that I have found and put together. One is LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning, if you have a LinkedIn account, which is free to create, you have access to LinkedIn Learning. They have a ton of different topics to learn about, but I have been using it for tutorials on learning Zoom. So I do suggest looking into this if you can. Secondly, my program, the Southern Vermont Economy Project, has put together this online meeting resources page specifically for this time, this crisis that we're going through. A lot of municipalities and organizations are having to shift to holding online meetings. So I thought this might be useful for people. So on this page, I have a bunch of links to Zoom resource pages, as well as Zoom video tutorials. I have a little section here on how to avoid getting hacked. Again, I have the LinkedIn learning information here. And at the bottom of that, I called out some of the learning paths and courses that I thought might be specific and useful for online meetings. And then I also have a little section on one-on-one technical assistance. As the Southern Vermont Economy Project Manager, I'm able to provide municipalities and nonprofits with one-on-one technical assistance. So if you're having trouble getting Zoom started, or you have a very specific question about how something works, please reach out to me. Here's my email, and I can help work through those issues. And then lastly, I showed you this instructional video, and I've been working on putting together some of these so that municipalities and nonprofits can utilize them in their meetings or around specific aspects of Zoom. So again, if you want to have a little how to operate Zoom intro in your meetings, please feel free to use this use this video. And then I've actually been working on putting together a video on how to use breakout rooms for executive sessions, specifically, for select board meetings. There is a feature in Zoom called breakout rooms, and I'm putting together a video on how to do that. Okay, so let's see if I can get this back to. So I want to open up the floor. Looks like I have Andrew and Gig here, and I'm going to go ahead and unmute the two of you and let me know if you guys have any questions.
I have a question. Actually,
Yeah.
a couple of questions. Is it can the only person record a meeting? Can the host be the only person who records a meeting, or if you're not the host, can you record a meeting?
Yeah, that's a great question. You, as a participant, you can record the meeting. I believe that the host has to give you permission. So Andrew, why don't you open the or go to the bottom of your screen and see if you can. Is there a record button there?
Right. Yes, there is.
Okay, so hit record.
Yep, and then request.
Yep. So probably ask.
Yeah, it's asking me for your permission.
Yep. So that's typically what will happen is if you were to click that and hit request, it'll pop up on my screen saying Andrew is requesting that you record the meeting. I would hit accept, and then you would have that recording on your either on your computer or on your cloud. So that is a way to do it. It's just not automatic. You need the approval of the host to do that.
So Sarah, I just asked to record it. What does it show on your screen? Can you approve it so I can see what it looks like on my screen?
Yeah, let's see. Okay.
Oh yeah, I got a little thing. Host allows you to record this meeting.
Great. What other questions do you guys have?
I don't know, sorry I was late, and you didn't send that email out very early.
I think I sent it at 11.
Yeah, 10 of 11.
Yeah.
Or at 12 o'clock. I was like, oh my God, I'm late.
Well, this is being recorded, so you can go back and watch it. Yeah,
So I had another question, if
sure.
I could throw it in. Yesterday, I was doing a Zoom interview with somebody, and for whatever reason, I couldn't get the video to work. I mean, my camera was working fine. I tested it afterwards, but the other person I was trying to talk to, who was not, a neophyte at any of this, was
Hmm.
unable to get her camera kind of up and running. I guess. I'm not sure exactly what my question is, but what is there any kind of quick fix that I could try the next time if that were to happen,
Yeah,
to try and troubleshoot that, or there's some cameras or some computers that have cameras that are or videos that are simply incompatible with each other.
generally speaking, it shouldn't be a problem. Most newer equipment, the camera that's in your computer, should link up with Zoom fairly easily. One thing I would suggest is for if people who are you're interviewing who maybe haven't used Zoom before, I would just suggest that they go on, they create an account, they set everything up, and you can do like I was showing earlier, you can test the video and test the audio. So I would just suggest that they do that, and ideally you can work out any kinks at that point. One thing I will note is that my camera on my computer, there's the little camera lens, and then there's the little light next to it telling me that it's on. But for instance, there is actually a little tab that I can slide over that turns my computer off or my camera off like that. People, I think you'll see people putting little Post-it notes or piece of tape over their camera because they don't want, people hacking into their camera. I think that was created for that, but that might have been an issue, is maybe the camera was connected, but because that was slid over, that may have stopped the video from working. So I would just try and have them troubleshoot it before getting on.
And also, when you sign on, it says sign on with video or without video. So maybe she clicked
True.
without video.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but it was like one of those things where, okay.
Gig, did you have another question?
I'm
sorry I missed the beginning of this because I'm hosting my first Zoom meeting tonight.
Great.
2 weeks ago, we did a go-to meeting and nobody could get in. So
oh boy.
I'm afraid that's going to happen tonight. And then we had a special meeting last week and somebody else hosted it. So I'm a little nervous.
Well, I think you were potentially on when I was just going over some of the online meeting resources that I put together. One of those resources is me. So, if you do have time this afternoon and you want to maybe do some practicing or trial and error and troubleshooting, I'd be happy to do that with you. Just to make sure you got all the options down and the features.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when I scheduled tonight's meeting, I did it before they upgraded their security measures. So I'm thinking that my people shouldn't be in a waiting room.
Okay.
Is it easy to see if they're in a waiting room and just pull them out? And in the future, can I unclick that box for a waiting room and just have them come right into my meeting?
Yes. So you can actually do it a couple ways. So you can go into your scheduler and you can edit a meeting. So if you go in and edit it, you can scroll down to the bottom and there's the option to enable the waiting room. You can unclick that and save, and that should update the meeting for that feature to not be, for there to not be a waiting room. As far as if the waiting room is enabled and you're already in the meeting, you will see in the participant list, there will be the list of people in the meeting and then a list of people in the waiting room. And there is an option in the waiting room to just admit all. You don't have to do it one by one. You can admit everybody. And then there's also the option when that participant list is open, at the very bottom, there's a more button with a little arrow. And as the host, when you click that more button, there is an option that says something about, enter all new participants into the waiting room. So as long as that's unclicked or there's no check by it, then that people will enter right into the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. And we can go over this too if you want to at later today, if we want to try troubleshooting some of that. I'd be happy to.
Okay. I don't like to troubleshoot until I have the trouble, so I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but then you're in the trouble. Either way, Gig, whatever works for you. If you want to see how it goes tonight and we can, troubleshoot tomorrow, that works too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, any other questions, Andrew or Gig?
No, that's about it for now. If I have a problem tomorrow when I'm doing one of these, can I call you immediately?
Sure. If I'm not in a meeting, I'll answer.
All right. Will this be? How quickly will you have this posted on your website? Because there's somebody I'm going to do an interview with on Monday who's apparently a bit of a novice at all this and feeling somewhat insecure.
Sure.
And I was thinking maybe this would be a good, something for her to watch to kind of feel a little more confident.
Yeah, definitely. I will, it'll start downloading to my computer as soon as I end the meeting, and I'll probably put it up by the end of the day. And so it'll be at this, the SVP page on the Brattleboro Development website.
Great. All right.
Yeah. Gig, was there anything else?
Nope. I'll click on your link later on.
Okay.
I'm coming back at like 5 or 5:30, so
okay.
I'll have some time before the meeting to look at your
awesome.
the
Great.
whole thing. Yes.
Great.
Okay.
And then just here on the bottom of the screen are the next 3 webinars that I'm doing in April. So next week I'm going to have our regional planning commissions, so Wyndham Regional and Bennington County Regional Commission on, as well as Vermont League of Cities and Towns, to just talk about some of the short-term impacts from COVID-19 for municipalities. Then I'm going to have a webinar about lessons learned from Tropical Storm Irene. It's obviously a different kind of disaster than what we're dealing with now, but I think there are some lessons that were learned during Irene that are applicable for our current time. And then the last one in April, we'll be talking about long-term impacts for municipalities from COVID-19. So, one of the big ones I've been hearing are potentially property taxes, people not being able to pay property taxes, and what that looks like and how towns should potentially prepare for something like that.
I have a question that you might not be able to answer.
Perfect.
But my select board is pushing for fiber optic internet. And there's a company that approached us in September, and now they seem to just be wanting gung-ho to go with this company. And I think after this COVID, there's going to be tons of grant funding and all sorts of help to get better internet in Vermont. Would you agree with that? Isn't that an economic development type thing?
Totally. Yes, I think that there is the potential. I think this situation is really shining a light on the lack of connectivity that we have, specifically in Southern Vermont, and how vital it is to conducting business, especially in times like these. I think my suggestion would be to, is Laura Sibilia a rep of Whitingham? I forget.
Yeah, she is.
So I would reach out to Laura, and she's going to have the most up-to-date information on any of that. stuff. So I would have a conversation with her before maybe jumping in with this
Okay.
company that's, you know, the only one that's approached you so far.
Yeah, I can't believe they're not even looking to go out to bid or anything.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah,
crazy.
I would talk with Laura first,
Okay.
for sure.
Right.
Great. Andrew, anything else before we go?
I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
That was very good.
Great. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Wait. One more.
Yeah.
Are you going to send us this list by email before, more than an hour before?
Yeah, so I sent out, I think yesterday, I sent out an email that just sort of generally introduced the April series, if you will. And I can be sure to maybe like Tuesday, the day before, send out a reminder email. And then towns should be getting, I also put together a postcard that I'm sending to all the towns. So there should also be a postcard arriving sometime this week.
Okay.
So I'll be sure everything's on our website
Okay.
as far as the events and the information and the Zoom link. But I can also send a reminder email the day before.
Okay, great. Yeah, because
Okay.
those all sound interesting.
Great. Well, thank you guys
Thanks,
so
Sarah.
much.
All right.
Stay safe, and I'll see you next week, hopefully.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you. You
Bye-bye.
too.